Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining me today on ASTV Sportscast in the Key with Executive Director of Basketball Manitoba, Mr. Adam Wedlake. Adam, I'd rather be sitting outdoors than indoors, much like yourself. August has certainly been a month where we're waiting for answers, waiting for clearance, getting some updates. Give us some updates with regards to return to play in Basketball Manitoba.
Yeah, for sure, Theo. Good talking to you as always. It's probably been a week since we last spoke. Things have changed. It goes fast and it goes at the same time. Not as fast probably as some people like to think or want, but we're still in a bit of holding pattern. We're in phase 2 of what we like to call the Canada Basketball Return to Basketball Plan, which allows for physical distance training, not sharing of equipment, following some other basic health directives to stay clean and separated, and which has been great actually for the camp world. This is our usual camp season anyways in July and August, so really the lack of games outside of our high-level teams, provincial teams and so on. This is the time of year when camps operate. So they're operating, a good number of them that have already operated through July and into August here. We have just started this last week. We have our boys one going next week. All the camps that are running right now are sold out, be it ours or other clubs or leagues that are or associations that are offering camps. So there's the demand and appetite is there for sure to get back on the court, albeit limited and in a slightly different way. But our coaches have been good to adapt, and again, it's little things that you sort of the toughest one probably our coaches, because again the kids are new and a little fresh, and sometimes our coaches have been coaching for 20 plus years. It's sometimes tough to break some old habits of introducing team play, or even just because we don't allow, or the plan does not allow for the sharing of equipment, things like passing or rebounding, or that would involve 2 people and 1 ball, unfortunately have to be avoided. But it's nice to get slowly back than we were, say, in June and prior.
So correct me if I'm wrong, Adam. High school basketball, obviously that's going to – we have a wait and see with that, because the schools are starting to release their own guidelines and their own return to school guidelines. What other planning has to happen or occur for us to get through stage 2 and move into stage 3?
Well, because basketball is very heavily involved in the school system, plus also a majority of our facility access, even for clubs and non-school basketball, relies on a school gymnasium to access it. And unfortunately, we got the news a few weeks ago from all the school divisions in Manitoba saying that they've put a freeze or a pause on all community access opportunities to get into gyms indefinitely. And how long does that mean? That could be a week, could be a month, it could be a year. We don't know. Obviously, they've got their hands full in just getting students back in the classroom in a safe manner and dealing with all that. That's evolving every day, it seems. And then, of course, how gym class looks, even just whether you have a permit to access the facilities after hours or not, but even just the basic ideas of what a gym class may look like, whether there be access to a gym for daytime use for the school, or one of these gyms, like we've been hearing some stories that gyms are being converted into classrooms or band rooms or whatever, and gym or phys ed class is going to be held outside. So that definitely has an impact on sports like us, volleyball, badminton, other ones that rely heavily on court spaces like a gym brings. So yeah, it's unprecedented times, and we're working closely with Sport Manitoba, plus other similar team sports. I mentioned volleyball, but also football. High school football starts up, or would be probably in the early stages of starting up to get ready for September competition, and that I know has been put on hold, at least for the time being. High school football and volleyball, same story. So basketball for in the school system doesn't start until December, so we have a bit of time. There's definitely a lot of basketball that would be being played this time of year outside of the school system, but like I said, relying on the school gyms to get to be active.
Those outdoor courts could be used a lot more, especially for recess times. And Lord knows we love hearing the chain and the ball, not so much the netting. It's not a netting outdoors. It's always the project chains I love hearing most with the swishes and whatnot. Maybe we'll hear more of those as we get into September and October, Adam. But of course, organized games we would love to see. Of course, we got to get back into stage 3. How much, I mean, putting that freeze on facilities has got to be the biggest hurdle, I think, because of access and because, we need to make sure we're promoting cleanliness and sanitization and proficient guidelines. Is there something that the sport organizations can do to aid these facilities to make sure that, they can give, like, not their word, like their words, like a handshake and an oak tree, but is there something that they could be doing to help potentially move this process along? Or is it simply the fact that it's a numbers thing, more numbers getting involved, the higher incident rate perhaps, but kids they don't need their sport, but it's directly proportional, showing that with better activity, with more activity, kids are healthier. We're not seeing crazy numbers with children and younger adults in high schools. Why do you think that we're facing such a hurdle when it comes to using these facilities for kids?
Well, we're probably just at the cusp here right now of schools just reopening, and I think, like I said, the access has been, I guess, postponed or delayed indefinitely, and that, I guess, again, open to interpretation. That'll be, but I think we're still at the cusp, and I understand it. Obviously, getting kids back in the classroom would be the priority at this moment. We're in mid-August here, and I think that a month from now, I'm hoping to see that once the school admins and people that manage the space in the gyms and access and get sort of over that hurdle of the classrooms, can now have a better comfort level of what a gym could look like. But again, even if all that being said, if the gym itself is being used for the actual classroom, odds are you're not going to build a class or bring in fill a gym full of tables and chairs every morning and then tear it down or break it down at 3:30 to allow sporting teams to come in and use the space. The other thing too, if there's most likely going to be a very limited or not a gym class or phys ed class, a lot of those opportunities will be if you're not going to have a normal gym class, why then at 3:30 do you then bring in a sport to use the space? So it's kind of the two go hand in hand. And again, this is unprecedented times for everybody on this. And we're looking forward to those sort of that middle to late September. Again, basketball in the school system, we don't start until December, going through till March. I definitely feel for the other sports like volleyball mainly, who is using the same space we do. Volleyball usually starts the second day of school and gets going. So we took it on the chin back March when the shutdown happened, and we had to stop provincial championships and whatnot midstream, right in the peak of our basketball year. Unfortunately, then volleyball and a few other sports are going to have to experience some of that early stuff and hopefully set a good tone, and hopefully we can see a little bit better in the coming.
No, you're absolutely right, Adam. I mean, we talk about the beginning of September being a priority to get kids back in the classroom, and the rest of those activities, those extracurriculars, will follow suit, of course. And I think it is a bit of a blessing that basketball gets to start a little bit later in the school year once we see how this transition will occur, because this is the first that we've seen in forever, basically. Basketball Manitoba, though, it's still working towards camps and stuff. We've got a camp currently happening right now. Give us a little bit of news on what week 2 and week 1 will look and how they'll be different.
Sure. Well, week 1, girls, the girls in the gym spread out over throughout the day. Part of the return plan also limits the number of people that are allowed in the space at a given time. Basically, it's two kids per hoop. So normal gyms have 6 hoops. That's 12 kids. And throughout the day, through different sessions, we have 2 courts going on at the Sport for Learner. This week was girls. Next week, same story, same numbers, same deal, just with boys. They sold out in record time. We announced them. Usually we announce our our camps in April, and they take probably 2-3 months to slowly fill with those, with even more numbers. This year we're a little less, but they sold out. Some of the sessions were selling out in 24 hours because of this pent-up demand, which was great. It's exciting to see, and it's exciting for our coaches, for the young people that have really been starved from an experience, and to get them a chance to get back on the court. And again, that's these kind of questions we've been talking about is the questions of the day for sure, from families and parents and coaches that are, again, eager. That's the encouraging part of things right now, is that there's it's exciting to hear the eagerness that people have to get back involved. And I think there's probably going to be, when we do get back in more formal capacity, probably even a greater appreciation for some of these little things that we all take for granted. We'll all take for granted one day, where we can go into a store without having to either wear a mask or sanitize or stand in line. Just like a sporting experience, same idea, where I think there's going to be even a greater appreciation for some of the things that we maybe, again, because it's always there. You never think of stuff like this. You just, for a game to happen, find two teams, a ball, a couple refs, a gym, bang, you go play. Now, for that game to happen in this environment, with all the health pieces and spacing and other concerns and hesitations people will have, definitely makes you long for those days prior to mid-March. But I know that sunnier days are soon here, and we'll be back hopefully very soon.
So we've got week 1 in the books as of today. Week 2 next week. How does that look? A little different? Does it look different, or is it the same group or different groups?
Boys. This last week was girls, and next week is boys. It's ages 10 to 17. 3 different groups coming throughout the day, so it's good. It's been really, really well received by the community. There's a number of other camps as well. So if somebody is the ones that we're running are sold out, but there's that week before the schools open, the week of the 31st of August, there's a handful of other camps that are still happening at Sport for Life Center. It's one of the few facilities that is actually open. Like I said earlier, the schools remain closed this time of year, anyways. For school access is tough as it is, let alone with what we're dealing with. But there's a few community centers that are slowly coming on board, that are opening their doors. Unfortunately, the university gyms at U of M and U of W remain closed, and those won't be open probably for the next while, at least until, again, they're dealing with the getting students back into. I guess they've all gone with the online options for schooling, but it's new territory, and even I know the struggle, like the Westman and Bison and Bobcat teams, including the MCAC teams out of CMU and Providence, are looking at a January start for their seasons, and hopefully there's a better time come then. Unfortunately, Red River College put the brakes on their whole athletics program a few months ago for the entire year. So unfortunate news with that, but the other pro hoping for, I guess, a better new year, as we all are, and getting back in the gym.
Absolutely. Basketballmanitoba.ca is where you'll find the latest and the greatest news. Your updates are always right on point, Adam. I mean, you go on that website and it's like, boom, like literally yesterday there was something there. You got your little handle, your Insta, your Twitter handle right there as well. So it keeps everyone up to date with all the news and the important advice. And catching Adam in the office is hard to do now. He's only there 1 out of 5 days. So, he probably enjoys the days at home, I'm sure.
No complaints there. Of course, that's always a bit more time at home, a bit more time with the family is never a bad thing. But it's a nice, at least with most of the things we do, and lucky enough that we can still do most of what we do in a normal day, but of course remotely. We've been working remotely since the pandemic started. So we're slowly getting the office back in somewhat of a fashion. But again, it's every week's a little different, and hopefully the numbers start bending downwards a bit and get a bit more people feeling a bit more comfortable being out and about. But we'll see. Hopefully, again, we're looking forward to mid-September to getting a better sense of what the fall will look like.
Absolutely. You talk about my favorite word of the 2020 thus far is the word fluid, how things change daily, hourly, and updates are consistent. And we look forward to seeing basketballs being bounced on a hard court fairly soon, and obviously a safe return to play. And maybe perhaps, another return to play phase or stage for basketball Manitoba in the near future?
Yeah, we're learning a few lessons along the way. Hopefully, we'll never have another pandemic like this to deal with in our lifetime. But if and when we do, we'll be a little bit more wiser, a little bit more sharper on how we conduct things. And I think that's not just us; that's hopefully everybody. And it's hopefully some shinier days coming up soon.
Shinier days for sure. Shinier days inside the bubble for the NBA. Who are you taking in the East? You still sticking with the Raptors?
Well, of course, you got to go with the Canadian question to repeat, and it is picking up. It is obviously like, I guess we're lucky that our sport was or our professional level of our sport was able to pull off their return, obviously in a different fashion for sure, just like the NHL has, and but I guess fortunate enough that it didn't get the same outcomes as the CFL unfortunately had. It'd be interesting to see, of course, how the NFL and other pro sports get going this fall. So yeah, it's lucky that we had this, and there's a little bit of basketball to enjoy on TV. It is definitely a different environment to watch. It feels very league-like with no crowds and definitely a different atmosphere that you're watching on TV. I can only imagine how different it is to be there in person versus a full arena, standing room only, Game 7 kind of environment that people is over. But yeah, it's neat to see it coming back, or it being back for a while now, and the playoffs will kick people up. I think this is the time of year that people don't get hooked into it, just like Stanley, to be excited about the Stanley Cup playoffs in August or September. It's very weird feeling to know you have to remind yourself that that is on right now. I gotta catch a few things. It's everybody's in a different mode this time of year. Any time any year this time of year is definitely not on the radar for pro sports like that.
August is definitely the month of June right now. That's for sure.
Pretty much.
So speaking of updates, last night the Minnesota Timberwolves get the first pick in the draft lottery. You are part of the Timberwolves organization. Do you pick or do you trade?
They've been cursed.
I put you on the spot, Adam.
I watched a YouTube video back of somebody ripping apart every one of their recent picks or trades over the last decade, and
yeah,
definitely it was not I think it was a Timberwolves fan who put it together, but obviously one who's pretty jaded and just like the poor Knicks fans at times, it seems that they can kind of never win. But I don't know. I think you got to trade that away. I think that
they need some stability in that lineup. They need some veterans.
Yeah, a veteran is vital, I think, and it's not you're not going to find some 40-year-old veteran who's looking just for a last hurrah to get on the court, but a person that you can sort of hitch your wagon to. Of course, if I had the right answer to this, I'd be working in Minnesota right now, Minneapolis right now, making those calls if I had all the rules. But it's good that, of course, they got it. Sort of Minneapolis is or the Timberwolves. Actually, it's interesting. The NBA breaks up because obviously not every location in North America has an NBA franchise, and people assume that we're all Canada is sort of blanketed by the Raptor country. And it is, I think, for the most part by fan base, but the NBA breaks. See the app that they've used, I guess, to identify the regions of North America that don't have an NBA franchise, and we actually fall into the Timberwolves area because, again, you can get to Minneapolis a lot quicker to drive there than you can to Toronto to drive there. So a lot of people do have a bleeding heart for the Timberwolves over the years because I've seen more Timberwolves games than any other franchise because, again, of their proximity here. So nice to see they got the first. Of course, what they do with it, and in 5 years, you go back and say that was a great move to pick that person, or that's the other thing too. You have the number one pick, but how many picks become legendary for their infamy of the worst possible pick you could possibly select or whatever, and they've been involved with some of those over the years too. So Yeah, I guess
They
it's
certainly have had their
yeah,
studs and duds. That's for
yeah,
sure. I mean,
for sure. On the opposite side, that duds studs. So
well, I want to say your fan favorite, your Raptors. I mean, you talk about that roster and how well they've really they've glued together. They've got a culture there. I mean, you wouldn't expect to see long-armed and lanky Pascal Siakam work so well with a guy named Fred VanVleet, who I don't know where. I don't think he was drafted, right,
yeah, it's
out of
definitely
college,
a case of
under the radar.
overachievers coming
Unbelievable.
together, and that's hats off to right from the GMs and top the front office to their coach. I think Coach Nurse, who I got to meet last year, just over a year ago when he was here with Team Canada. I think he's definitely a unique, wonderful selection that they've been able to keep him as their coach, and hopefully he's there with them for the long haul because he's not Canadian, but he stepped into the role of the Canadian men's national team as its head coach last year. Luckily, we were able to have him here last August at Bell MTS Play. I got to meet him and talk with him a little bit, and I think and of course it's not one person. It's like you said earlier, Theo, the culture around the team, and to build, of course, a culture of success. You can say culture, and it doesn't always mean good. So we mentioned the other two franchises that maybe you think of the Knicks and maybe the Timberwolves, and I'm sure
Yep.
every sports got there's the sort of the culture of of infamy or culture of failure. That's not always good. So, but it does start at the top, and it does set a tone that people hopefully down below, and you can find those people always get so wrapped up in that number one pick or a lottery pick, but you look at the players in the league right now, Steph Curry or others that were obviously they're good players at the time of their college levels, but by no means did anybody think that a person picked in the second round will become sort of the face of the NBA or a household name like Curry, or there's countless others.
Yep.
So really, it's doing your homework and finding those kind of guys that can know a role, work hard, step into a role, and not. That's always the tough thing. Any sport, any level, you go from a high school level to a university, or even a junior high to a high school level, or whatever. There's always that element that you're starting to now pinch off, and everybody's have the ball. Not everybody's going to be the star, but you got to find, in basketball's case, 12 players that will work well together, and that really comes to the front office and the coach to make that happen and keep all those personalities happy. If you remember, we talked a few episodes ago about the Last Dance and what the Bulls heydays in the '90s there of keeping. It's one thing to keep MJ happy, but then all his supporting cast and each one of those players, from Pippen to Rodman to Kukoc to a whole line of them, could have been
Braxton to
superstar
Cartwright,
studs
to
on
you
their
name it, they
respective
had
team.
all
But
those different personalities. Yeah.
everybody, yeah, but they all bought into it, and most of them did. And of course, there's not everybody's going to be, but the ones that don't usually they fall to the wayside or asked to get traded or whatever. But bought into the we versus me approach, and you got to give hats off to their. I guess somewhat their front office. Their GM at the time was a bit of and remains a controversial character, but
Always.
to the coach, to Bill Jackson, who may not be your best X's and O's, he brought actually. Look at that. He was the glue, but then he had others around him that were the X's and O guys, like the Tex Winter or whatever that could speak the language of basketball. But Phil was the Zen Buddha in the middle that. And every team needs that. Every leader, every group, be it sport or anything else, needs that leader that people can rally around and follow and get better.
He was the Zen master of the triangle. He loved his polygons. He loved his shapes.
Yeah.
Last question I'm going to ask you, Adam, because I don't want to take too much of your sunlight away. Now that Seattle has the Kraken in the NHL, do you think there's a potential expansion to get a team back in Seattle for the NBA?
That's a great one. There really hasn't been and I don't know really the appetite for Adam Silver, who would be he's the NBA commissioner, the appetite as much as his predecessor with David Stern, who was a bit more, I think, gung ho with the expansion bug. I don't know really an appetite to expand to add another team, whether it would be in Seattle or anywhere else. I guess there's always the idea of moving, and you go back to the Timberwolves. There's chatter of that franchise being sold. Kevin Garnett, a name, and a few other being a name to buy it. Hopefully, keeping a team like that in Minneapolis, because again, the proximity to Winnipeg and Manitoba here is important for us. But that could be. I would be more expecting a team that is maybe not having a great relationship with their community, that they could be moved. Again, Seattle, I think that was unfortunate because it is geographically, it's outside of Portland there. There's a bit of that sort of northwest part of the U.S. there. There's a lot of smaller states that may not have, and so I think to lose the Supersonics or whatever that was 10 plus years ago now was quite unfortunate for the league to have that happen. But there's definitely interesting conspiracy videos. Go back to on YouTube and find full documentaries that people have made about how Seattle got screwed and the fix was in and nobody was going to bat for them, or all that kind of crazy stuff that happens when a franchise moves, just like when the Jets moved back in the 90s there. And there was definitely that heart-wrenching feeling of luckily they came back, or a version of the Jets came back, not the same franchise. But so yeah, I guess that's I would be surprised though there's an actual expansion of the NBA, again, for what I know and from what I follow. I could be wrong, but wouldn't surprise me if there would be a move of a team in the coming years. Also, Las Vegas, just like the Knights there with the NHL as well. I think that's strangely been a void. I know that this goes back, and maybe the pro leagues are a bit more accepting of the world of gambling and understanding it's going to happen whether you control it or not. But I know pro leagues have always sort of shied away from Vegas sort of being the heartbeat of gambling, and sort of the I guess being too close or too familiar with that kind of world may not be great for your PR or family values or whatever. But I wouldn't be surprised an NBA Vegas team formed. I think that would be. I would probably guess that would be probably more of an attractive location, maybe Seattle. But there's also then talk about the unfortunate one that we lost as a country, though, with the Vancouver Grizzlies. They really didn't have much of a run here in Canada, unfortunately, and for many reasons didn't stick it in Vancouver. Probably a bit of a hole that was left. They both started at the same time, both the Raptors and Grizzlies in '95, and I think I'm probably wrong here. I'd have to look it up. When did they actually leave? It was 5 years later that they were already heading south. So that was too bad.
Yeah, it was a short run. I mean, I remember the Grizzlies in their first ever pick. There was a documentary that just came out on I don't know if it was HBO or ESPN, but regardless, finding Big Country and what he's doing these days, it's hard to find him and what he's doing. It's kind of impressive.
Yeah.
But for a guy that didn't like the limelight, he probably could have played in a good city like Vancouver where there wasn't much.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, the interesting fact, or whatever fun fact, the very first time Grizzlies and Raptors ever played each other, it was exhibition play still, was here in Winnipeg in it was October of '95 at the old Winnipeg Arena here. And actually, Bryant Reeves was there, and there was some of the early, obviously very, very early days of the Raptors and Grizzlies. It was the first time they ever played here or played each other was here in the city. So that was neat. That was when I just started at Basketball Manitoba. So wow, this is a pretty good gig here. We're going to have NBA here all the time, and NBA just expanded in Canada, and then that was definitely a high water mark. Then the next year was, okay, where's the next franchise expansion? Is there going to be a team in Winnipeg here? Is there going to be a team in Regina? I don't think so.
No.
But yeah, it was interesting for sure. Actually, one last piece on that was probably the most memorable part that I was part of that game. We actually had people may not know this name, James Naismith, who was the editor of basketball. We actually had his grandson in Winnipeg here to throw up the first the ceremonial ball at that game, and my job was to go pick up James Naismith's grandson. And when you sort of thinking go pick up somebody's grandson, you think of some little kid coming off airplane with a lollipop and whatever. And Stuart, his name was probably 95, and this elderly guy coming off. It was really neat to meet him and hear some stories about what he does remember about his grandfather. I think his grandfather had died when he was pretty young, so he didn't know him that well, but he was a direct descendant of the inventor of the game, so that was a unique time to have. And of course, the Grizzlies and Raptors here at the same time was a fun time.
Insight locally, insight nationally and internationally. Adam Wedlake, anything else you'd like to say before I let you go enjoy the rest of the weekend?
Well, it's the last little spring run of summer here in the next few weeks and months. Get outside. There's a ton of basketball courts, outdoor courts that are waiting to be played on. We ask that you still, of course, abide by all the health regulations of staying physically separate and clean and washing your hands, staying home if you're feeling ill. But we've got on our website, if you go to actually outdoor.basketballmanitoba.ca, we've got an interactive map of well over 200 outdoor basketball courts in Manitoba that you can find and click on and get a bit more insight of how many hoops there are, if there's what kind of surface it is, if there's lighting, if there's fencing, all the little attributes make a good court, a great court. So again, get out active, be active. Summer is the days are fleeting here. We'll hopefully have some better times as the snow falls, but get out and enjoy the game.
Adam, thank you very much. Outdoor.basketballmanitoba.ca. You'll find the map, correct?
Yep.
Excellent. That's a great resource there. I'm going to go check it out myself, get the hoops up, go find some chains, hook them up, and I love hearing that sound. Nothing but chain, nothing but net. Executive Director Adam Wedlake with Basketball Manitoba joining us on In the Key ASTV Sportscast. Thanks for joining me, Adam. Have a great weekend. Take care.
As well.